1:30 in the morning in Miami-Dade?
It was a long 18-hour day, and then we also had a temperature variance of about 60 to 70 degrees from Oakland County to Miami. We're at about 20 degrees, and we ended up in about balmy 85-degree weather last night in Florida. So it was quite a day.
Well,
And we've got
before
something similar
I want
planned
to
for
talk to you
today.
about I want to talk to you about this new book, Trump on China, Putting America First, that you have edited and the White House has at whitehouse.gov. But I got to ask you first, the national security aide travels with the president in case of crisis. Like this morning, there are reports of a jetliner being shot down in the Armenia conflict. How do you stay connected? I mean, you're the guy who's supposed to brief them on stuff like this. It's a big deal. It's reminiscent of when the Russians shot down the plane over Crimea during President Obama's tenure. What goes on?
Well, we're fortunate. We travel with a tremendous group of military folks. So not just there's not just the NSA who's traveling. We have the military aide who carries the football. We have White House communications folks. We have the Secret Service. We're always in communication with the Situation Room. I spend a good chunk of my day on a secure line, either in a plane or in a secure holding facility that's set up everywhere the president goes. And so we're able to get updated, and then I can update the president between the rallies on what's happening in the world and if there are any crises. We've had a number of reports coming out on a number of issues in Armenia and Azerbaijan. So we've got to be careful about these initial reports when they first come out. Oftentimes they're wrong, but it's something we're tracking this morning and keeping an eye on. That's a terrible conflict. I was in California this week talking to leaders of the Armenian community, and we've got to get that resolved. The president's called for a ceasefire, as has President Macron and President Putin. We need to get the parties to a negotiating table. We need to wrap up that conflict. A lot of innocent civilians are being killed.
Now, Ambassador O'Brien, I'm curious, since you were in Oakland, Michigan yesterday, not a lot of people know, but the areas around Detroit and in Detroit are one of the greatest concentration of wonderful Arab American citizens anywhere in the United States. Did they turn out in any numbers? Did you see them at the Trump rallies in Michigan?
You know, what's amazing about all these rallies is you see such a diverse group of people. You see African Americans, you see Hispanic Americans. We had a lot of Native Americans up in Michigan at the rally. There are Arab Americans. It's the president's put together an amazing coalition. Again, I don't do the politics on this, but it makes you proud to be an American as you look out at these crowds and you see tens and 20. Some of these crowds were up to 30,000 people who'd waited in the cold for hours to see their president, and then it looks like America. It's just a great group of patriots who come out to see from all walks of life, all religions, all ethnicities. And they line the roads. If it's not an airport rally and we're going to drive somewhere off the airport, you see the roads lined. Whatever the time of day or night, are people there waving signs and waving American flags and there to see something unique with either it's Marine One landing or to see the presidential limousine or to see Air Force One landing. It's a special occasion for Americans to see their president and see the amazing logistics that go behind moving him around the country and around the world.
Now, the reason I brought up the Arab American, I was just wondering if anyone talks to you about the Abraham Accords. It's one of the signature achievements of the president, is doing more in 4 months than got done for 28 years, 30 years in the Middle East. Does that come up? Again, you're not political, but you're around the political people.
Well, what Americans are proud of is the fact that the president's keeping his promises, or the promises he made to the American people, and that is he wanted to bring our American sailors, soldiers, airmen, and Marines home, and from these endless wars, and he's doing it, by making peace in various parts of the world. He negotiated an economic normalization deal between Kosovo and Serbia, something the experts, the foreign policy elite, and the Europeans said couldn't be done. He negotiated a deal that Secretary Pompeo signed with the Taliban. We haven't had a combat death in Afghanistan since February. And then he negotiated the historic Abraham Accords. We've had 3 Arab countries make peace with Israel in the past 2.5 months, and that's something that was unheard of. Folks said that the only way to get peace with the Arabs was through the Palestinians. The Palestinians were recalcitrant, and so the president built up political capital with the Israelis and with the Arabs. He used that capital to encourage them to engage in peace talks, and look, it's just the 3 to start. There are more to come in a second Trump term, so it's a phenomenal accomplishment.
Now, Ambassador O'Brien, last question before
many parts of the world.
Last question before China. Our mutual friend Montel Williams is always urging me to call you up and urge you to pay attention to hostages. And I always tell them Robert O'Brien never stops talking about the hostages, nor does the president. There are a lot of Americans who are still held around the world. Has any of that been suspended through the political campaign, or are the efforts still underway in every country where an American is wrongfully held?
No, that's what folks don't realize is that we're constantly, and we have a large group of people, folks in our military. If there's a rescue opportunity, folks at the State Department, at the NSC, at the FBI, that it's their sole job is to work on getting our hostages back. And one of the things I'll note is during the height of the campaign over the past 2 weeks, the president's brought 5 different hostages home or detainees. He brought 3 home from Yemen, 2 hostages who were alive, and sadly there remains another who had died in captivity, but is going to come home to rest in peace here. He brought home a wrongful detainee from Belarus, so that was some terrific diplomacy by Secretary Pompeo. He brought home another detainee, Michael Wynn, from Vietnam, and then we had this just amazing raid where our special operators went in and saved an American hostage within 96 hours of him being taken by criminal/Islamic elements in Niger. So we've had 5 or 6, depending on how you count it, hostages come home just in the last 2 weeks during the height of the campaign, and it's one of the number one things on the president's agenda. But we never rest on those laurels, because as soon as you bring one home, you think of Austin Tice or Trevor Reed or Paul Whelan or Michael Calvi, 3 hostages in Russia. You think of Austin Tice in Syria. You think of the Namazis or Murad Tabaz who are in Iran, or the Citco 6 who are down in Venezuela, Jeff Woodkey who's in Mali. So you don't chalk up the wins. All you think about are the folks who are still out there and how we get them home.
Now, Mr. Ambassador, we're going to blow through the break here because I want you to explain Trump on China putting America first. People are going to be able to get it at whitehouse.gov. It's not up yet, but they're going to be able to get it at whitehouse.gov. What is Trump on China putting America first? I read your introduction. I've heard all these speeches. I was with Secretary Pompeo when he delivered his at the Nixon Library in Yorba Linda in July. But they're all laid out here, including the president's, beginning with the vice president, then Secretary Pompeo, Director of the FBI, Wray, Attorney General Barr, yours in Arizona, and then the president. What is this about?
Well, the idea is that the Chinese have been running the Chinese Communist Party has been running a propaganda effort against the United States, against democracy, and against our values for many years. And we've turned the other cheek, and we've hoped that as the Chinese became richer, they'd become more like us. And that hasn't happened. So we turned the other cheek when it came to human rights violations in places like Xinjiang or Hong Kong. We turned our Tiananmen Square. We turned the other cheek on Tibet or India, the South China Sea, or Taiwan, where they've been aggressive with their neighbors. We've turned the other cheek when they stole our intellectual property, massive, as Christopher Wray called it, the greatest transfer of wealth in human history. It's the theft of American ideas and technology by the Chinese. And so the president asked his senior officials to lay out what the Chinese were doing and how we're going to respond in a series of speeches over the past year and a half. What we did is we collected those speeches and put them together in a book where people could get them in one place, and it really shows the Trump doctrine when it comes to China. But it's also a wake-up call. Whoever the next president is, whether it's a new president next week, which could happen, or democracy, or a new president 4 years from now, we wanted to lay out the challenges to the American people that are posed by China. That it's a very dangerous existential threat to America. And so now those speeches they counter the Chinese theory of the case and the idea that their system is better than ours are laid out in one place in this book. And I urge people to order it on whitehouse.gov.
Now, Mr. Ambassador, last question. I know you're pressed for time. When we know that Russia is messing with our election, we know Iran is messing with our election. You have said that on this show. You've said it many times. But is there any doubt in your mind that the Chinese Communist Party is doing whatever it can to defeat Donald Trump because of this policy of conservative realism towards China?
No, there's no doubt in my mind, and it's not just China, Russia, and Iran. There's some other countries that I can't talk about that we're closely monitoring. Fortunately, we've hardened our election infrastructure. We've spent hundreds of millions of dollars on with secretaries of state around the country, all 50 of them. We've got National Guard cyber units stood up in the various states. There's a situation room that's being run over the next couple of days on election security. So I want the message I want to get out to the American people. While our adversaries like to sow discord and might try and interfere with the election, I don't think they will on election day. I think your vote's going to be safe. It's going to be secret. And the best way to defeat our foreign adversaries is to get out and vote. If you don't want the foreign adversaries to influence us or to interfere with elections, get out and vote for your preferred candidate. And that's the way to defeat our foreign adversaries, whether it's the Chinese or the Russians or the Iranians or or others. And so get out and vote in the next day or two.
Ambassador O'Brien, thank you for your time. The new book on China is over at whitehouse.gov. Trump on